Unrivaled Book 2 Prologue, A Princess's Proposal. We return to the Weld, where Lexia meets Yuya once again. This time not to thank him, but to confess her love outright. Her words hang in the air for a heartbeat before chaos erupts. Yuya, Owen, and the knights all shout at once, their collective noise echoing through the trees. Owen, visibly trembling, clears his throat and suggests they move the conversation somewhere more private. Yuya, still stunned, offers his cabin. The knights are shocked that anybody could survive in such a dangerous place, but they follow, uneasy yet curious. Owen can't shake his suspicion. Everything about Yuya, the foreign name, the dark hair, the unusual fighting style, feels out of place. Still, Lexia trusts him completely, and that alone gives Owen pause. At the cabin, the knights stand guard outside while Yuya, Lexia, and Owen step inside to talk. Inside, Yuya gently turns Lexia down. She pouts like a scolded child, refusing to look at him until she finally sighs and says they can at least start as friends. Owen mutters to himself that dealing with royalty is always this exhausting. As their conversation winds down, Owen worries about the trip back to the kingdom. The forest is too dangerous for combat, but Yuya offers to escort them, and Lexia eagerly accepts any excuse to stay near him. The knights, grateful for any help, quickly realize how unnecessary their worry is. With Yuya's strength added to their ranks, every monster falls effortlessly before them. By the time they reach safety, Owen's suspicion has turned to awe. He admits, privately, that the king will definitely want to meet the man who saved his daughter. On the journey home, he even entertains a political thought that surprises him. Perhaps Lexia's feelings aren't such a bad idea. If someone like Yuya were tied to the country, the monarchy would gain not just an ally, but a living legend. Chapter 1. Night and the Noise of Two Worlds. Back in the Weld, Yuya fights monster after monster, hoping the repetition will quiet his mind. Lexia's proposal still looms in his thoughts like a song he cannot turn off. As he wanders deeper into the forest, he catches the faint cry of a small animal. Following the sound, he finds a huge, grotesque orc king bullying a tiny black puppy. Yuya's scan reveals the creature's strength to be twice his own. Instincts tell him to walk away, survival of the fittest and all. But the puppy's weak yelps breaks through his hesitation. He grips his spear, gathers his courage, and bursts from the bushes with a war cry, only for the spear to impale the orc king instantly. One hit, dead. The forest falls silent. Yuya stands frozen, half triumphant, half mortified at how ridiculous his grand entrance turned out to be. He rushes to the puppy's side. The scan labels it as a black Fenrir, a legendary species known for ferocity and intelligence. When he reaches out, the puppy snaps at him, and the memory stings. Animals used to hate him when he was ugly, but he refuses to leave it suffering. He pours a cure-all potion into its mouth, and as the light spreads, the wounds vanish. The puppy blinks, wags its tail weakly, and for the first time doesn't recoil. A message appears before him. Black Fenrir successfully tamed. He names the pup Night, after its pitch-black fur. Among the orc's remains, he finds a peculiar drop, the hairbrush of the Pig King. When he brushes Night's fur, it becomes soft and shining. The moment feels strangely intimate, and Yuya's eyes sting. For the first time in his life, his home isn't empty. Back in the modern world, Yuya brings Night along to the modern world. His classmates are fascinated by the dog, but more so when they discover he doesn't own a phone. Kaede volunteers to take him shopping. It's a thin excuse for what's clearly a date, and Yuya is too polite to call it that. At the pet store, Kaede picks up a crisp white collar that stands out beautifully against Knight's fur. Later that evening, Yuya takes Knight for a walk. The dog's curiosity is boundless, though the city doesn't startle him as much as Yuya fears. People stare, smile, and wave. What Yuya doesn't realize is that he's being recorded from several angles. Videos and photos are already making the rounds online. The internet collectively melts over the hot guy with the mysterious black dog, and soon that route becomes the city's unofficial evening stroll hotspot. On another night, he runs into Kaori. She kneels to pet Knight, asking what breed he is. Unsure how to explain a mythical creature, Yuya claims he's a rescue. Their conversation draws a crowd. A beautiful girl, a striking boy, a majestic dog, and the whispers grow when Mew, the model, shows up. "Is this a hot person convention?" someone mutters, and Kaori nearly chokes on her laughter. She nervously asks what the relationship is with Mew, and although Mew looks disappointed when he insists they're just friends, there's no time for awkwardness as a purse snatcher rushes past. Without hesitation, Yuya commands Knight to chase. The sight of a fully grown man being dragged across the ground by an overzealous puppy sends the crowd into hysterics. When the thief gets up swinging, Yuya parries his knife easily, subduing him without breaking a sweat. The cheers rise louder than before, and Kaori's admiration deepens, but she simply smiles and tells him to be more careful. Back in the Weld, Yuya and Knight continue training their teamwork, improving with every fight. They encounter a crystal deer, its red and blue crystal antlers gleaming in the light. The creature attacks with both fire and water magic, forcing Yuya to think on his feet. After a fierce struggle, the two manage to bring it down. Among the drops is a bizarre luxury item, a portable, lavish, open-air bath set. Fire plus water equals bath? Yuya jokes to himself. Surrendering to the most Japanese instincts imaginable, he tries it immediately. Knight resists at first, but once he's in, he doesn't want to leave, and bathing becomes their new nightly ritual. Their adventures continue. They defeat a needle roller, an armadillo monster armed with quills like steel spikes. Working together, they lure it into a trap and finish the fight cleanly. The reward is another absurdly practical item, the extreme toothbrush, capable of sterilizing and whitening in one swipe. Shaking his head, Yuya can't help but laugh. Even the forest seems to know that he likes his creature comforts. When the dust settles, they notice the rock the monster had smashed apart reveals a hidden cave. Torches light themselves as they step inside, and the scan shows no enemies. Deeper inside, they find an old skeleton and a massive book resting in his hands. On the first page, written in delicate script, "To the first one who finds me, the Sage." Chapter 2, The Book of the Sage. The moment Yuya opens up the book, it responds. Words appear and fade, answering his thoughts as if the book itself is alive. It tells him the story of its author, a man who mastered every art, every science, every craft, and who, at the end of his life, turned down the gods' offer to join them. The sage had chose to die as a man, leaving behind his knowledge for someone worthy. Then the book asks, "Yuya, what do you desire?" Yuya hesitates, then admits the truth. He's from another world, one without magic. And more than anything, he wants to understand it. The book scans him and delivers its verdict. He lacks the proper mana pathways. Yuya feels the sting of disappointment, but before he can close it, the pages flare with light. The sage's pathways, the text explains, can be transferred to him. Agony follows, every nerve on fire, every breath a test. When the pain subsides, warmth spreads through him, different from any physical strength he's felt before. The book's writing shifts again, teaching him how to feel mana, to recognize it like a second pulse. Magic, it says, is shaped by imagination. Incantation are only tools for beginners. Yuya takes the advice to heart, remembering the sage's humorous warning. If you must cast fire, do it far from anything flammable. I recommend water. He lifts his hand and summons a sphere of liquid. It grows to the size of a basketball, shimmering under the torchlight. Night, watching closely, mimics him, forming his own sphere. Their shared grin says everything. Once outside, they fire their spells together, the twin blasts punching through a line of trees. The sounds echo like distant thunder, and the two of them burst out laughing. For the rest of the day, they keep training, lost in the sheer joy of discovery. Chapter 3. Whispers of the Kingdom. Back in the capital, Lexia and Owen return without incident. Owen's report to the king is thorough. Every detail of the journey, every monster, every miracle. The king listens quietly until Owen mentions one small fact. Lexia proposed to a rescuer. Silence falls. Then, in an instant, the king unsheathes the royal sword, shouting, "How dare someone seduce my daughter?" and proceeds to throw a tantrum fit for the ages. Owen stands to the side, hands folded, quietly wondering if eccentricity is hereditary among royals. Elsewhere, in the darker parts of the city, a nobleman moves through hidden alleys, his hood pulled low. He manipulates a secret mechanism in a brick wall, revealing a passage into the Guild of Darkness, a place where money buys silence and death. The noble's first attempt to have Lexia killed has failed, and now he's desperate. Inside, an enormous bartender hands him a list of available assassins. One name freezes him in place: the headhunter. He pays for an audience. The moment he enters the room, a knife touches his throat. The assassin, voice calm and cold, tells him she already knows about his ties to the first prince and his previous failure. Panic floods him. She's not just threatening him, she's naming treason. She offers to take the job for 500 gold, an outrageous price. But with his life already on the line, he agrees. The headhunter's expression doesn't change. "Then it's settled," she says, slipping her blade away. "I'll handle the princess myself." The door closes behind him, leaving the noble trembling in the dark, unaware that he's just unleashed the most dangerous killer in the kingdom, and that her path will cross Yuya's soon enough. Chapter 4. Before the Field Trip. The next morning, Yuya wakes in a sharp, throbbing pain. His first real lesson in what happens when you use every drop of your mana. The exhaustion is deep, almost bone level, and he realizes how fragile even his new strength can be. He swears to be more careful next time, though the sage's book sitting beside him makes that promise harder to keep. The pages are filled with strange and tempting knowledge, and despite his fatigue, he finds himself already thinking about what to try next. When Yuya returns to school, the air feels brighter than usual. The girls chatter with excitement as Miss Sawada announces an upcoming field trip, calling it a great opportunity for personal growth. Enthusiasm fades fast, though, when she reveals she'll be the one assigning groups. The classroom mood swings from cheers to groans. Yuya, as always, takes it in stride. He just hopes he'll have the chance to get closer to his classmates. His group ends up being Kaede, Akira, and a tall, athletic girl named Rin. While going through the packing list, he realizes he doesn't even have a proper bag. He vaguely remembers that his grandfather never used one either, and the thought makes him smile. The group decide to go shopping together. At the mall, Kaori joins them, and for both her and Yuya, it's the first time they've gone shopping as friends. The group quickly warms up to them after hearing how Kaori and Yuya met, and how she helped get him into Osei Academy. They pick a sturdy rucksack for him, and then, naturally, head straight to the arcade. Shingo sets his sights on an anime figure in a claw machine, and Yuya helps him win it with a precision that borders on the supernatural. His streak continues. He clears the shooting game, tops the drumming scores, and dominates the racing track. The group cheers him on, and the easy laughter between them gives Yuya a small but genuine sense of belonging. Eventually, they split up, girls to shop, boys to eat. But a sudden commotion breaks out. Smoke pours from the upper floors. A fire has started in the arcade. When calls to the girls go unanswered, Yuya acts without hesitation. He summons his water magic and pushes through the flames unharmed, reaching the bathroom where the girls lie unconscious from the smoke. Unsure if his spell can protect all of them, he makes a split-second decision. He stomps through the weakened floor, crashing down to safety below. Firefighters rush in, and panic gives way to relief. Later in the hospital, the girls awaken to the sight of tearful parents. They thank Yuya over and over. But while he nods politely, their words sting a little. He realizes that no one would cry for him like that way. Not anymore. He can't even explain how he managed the rescue, not without revealing his secret. When he finally returns home, Night greets him with a wagging tail and bright eyes. The warmth of that welcome cuts through the ache in his chest. He kneels down, rubbing the dog's head, whispering a quiet thank you to at least have one family member waiting for him when he comes home. Chapter 5: An Encounter in the Forest. Back in the other world, Yuya begins experimenting with teleportation magic. He knows the key is to picture the destination clearly, but no matter how hard he focuses, the image never comes quite together. He worries about Night, how to feed him while he's away on his school trip, and it nags at him even more than the spell work. When he returns to the modern world, a small idea clicks into place. What if he can create a spell that captures an image, like taking a mental photograph, and then combine that with his gate magic? The result is his new invention, teleportation magic. Testing it on a postcard of Hawaii, he realizes the spell only works on places he's actually been, but it's still a remarkable breakthrough. When he heads back to the Weld, he tries to clear out the monsters to make it safer for Owen and the Knights' future patrols, but new creatures always seem to appear in their place. While making potential teleportation points, Knight's ears perk up. There's fighting nearby. They slip into camouflage and move quietly towards the sound. A young woman, roughly Yuya's age, is surrounded by goblins. Yuya nearly steps in, but Night stops him, sensing she can handle herself for the moment. She fights with impressive ability, despite having no visible weapon, but her stamina begins to fail, and soon she's forced to block rather than dodge. Seeing her falter, Yuya jumps into action. He draws a white whip from his inventory, its tail splitting and slicing through the goblins with eerie precision, as though it has a will of its own. Once the fight is over, he approaches the unconscious girl. Night growls warily beside him. He carries her to a clearing, keeping some distance to avoid frightening her when she wakes. When she stirs, startled and confused, Yuya quickly reassures her and offers her one of his potions. She hesitates, watching him drink a bit first before taking a cautious sip herself. She explains she's there to train, though her tone is uncertain. Yuya answers that he's training too, which shocks her. Nobody in their right mind would choose to train in a place this dangerous. Her suspicion only makes Night more uneasy, and his low growl makes that clear. After some awkwardness, they exchange names. She introduces herself as Luna, and assumes Yuya must be a noble based on his polite manner and unusual surname. Before leaving, she suggests they train together. Yuya agrees, and for the first time, Night tail twitches in reluctant tolerance. As they part ways for the day, Luna complains quietly about her body odor from all the fighting. Without thinking, Yuya mentions that he has a bath. She assumes he means back home, but when he clarifies that he has it with him, her disbelief is instant. Then, before her eyes, He activates the portable open-air bath, and steam rises from the magic spring. Luna is stunned. It's such a luxurious item she can't imagine how he acquired it. When he casually explains that it dropped from a crystal deer, she's completely speechless. The moment she tries the bath, she's hooked. From that point forward, the bath becomes a daily ritual during their training. Days pass. They grow used to each other's company. Yuya learns that Luna isn't unarmed. She fights using nearly invisible razor wire, controlling it with precision and deadly efficiency. Watching her work is both terrifying and mesmerizing. She tears through goblins with surgical strikes. Their routine becomes steady. Train, fight, bathe to unwind. Yuya even brings her shampoo and cosmetics from the modern world. Small luxuries that make her smile. He's fully aware of how beautiful she is, but he tries to keep his focus on their training. As the week ends, he tells her that he needs to leave soon for his trip, though he can't explain what a school trip is. Luna looks disappointed, but thanks him in her own way. That night, they're last together before he leaves. Much to his surprise, Luna joins him in the bath. She thanks him for saving her life, and for giving her time she describes as peaceful. Washing his back, she admits that she wishes they'd meet sooner. Maybe her life would have been different if they had. Her words are heavier than she probably means them to be, and just as the air starts to grow too serious, her towel slips. They both jump in shock, stumbling apart in embarrassment. The moment ends with awkward smiles, but there's warmth to it too. A quiet bond that neither of them fully understand yet. Chapter 6. The Field Trip. On the bus ride to the mountains, Yuya passes time by playing cards with his classmates. His uncanny luck ensures that he wins every match, but the repeated victories leave him uneasy. If luck alone decides everything, he wonders, will games still feel fun? The quiet worry lingers until the bus finally stops and the teachers deliver a surprise. The field trip isn't a sightseeing event at all. It's survival training. And the collective groan that follows says it all. As the students unload their gear, Miss Sawada radiates her usual chaotic energy. She explains that the success during camp will determine how much funding their class gets for the next festival. Then, under her breath, she adds that it will also affect her end-of-year bonus. The honesty earns more jeers than laughs. When she tells him that injuries will be handled by Miss Yomikara, the school nurse, the atmosphere shifts from annoyed to dread. Rumor has it that the nurse's treatments are worse than the illness. Even her name, Yomi, is a word tied to the underworld, making students shiver. No one intends to test those rumors. The groups spread across the campsite to begin their task. Yuya pairs with Kaede to fish in the nearby stream. His body now moves with the intuition of somebody that's used to danger. He unconsciously activates his detection skill, sensing both fish and water depth. Drawn by instinct, he wades into the shallows, blending perfectly in with his surroundings as camouflage takes hold. For a moment, he seems to disappear and then reappear, holding a fish with his bare hands. Applause and astonished laughter ripple from the group, leaving Yuya red-faced but smiling. He keeps fishing until they have more than enough to feed everybody. When they return, they find Akira lying dramatically on the ground. He groans that there was bear tracks nearby, and that Rin, ever the scientist, decided to test wild mushrooms on him to check if they were safe. Kaede steers the conversation away from Akira's plight, and instead gushes about Yuya's fishing skills, much to Akira's despair. Later, Yuya's group runs into Kaori's group, near the teacher's building. Everyone shares complaints about the harsh conditions until the groups are summoned for the daily food inspection. Miss Sawada beams at their haul of edible ingredients, muttering something about her bonus again. When it comes time to cook, Yuya draws the short straw, but even his bad luck turns to his advantage. Once he starts preparing the meal, the smell alone draws a crowd. His movements are confident and precise, and soon the entire area fills with the sound of sizzling food and appreciative chatter. Other teachers wander over, intrigued. Miss Sawada, smelling faintly of alcohol, grabs a plate herself. The reaction is immediate. The moment they taste his food, conversation stops, replaced by astonished delight. Even Miss Sawada tears up a little, declaring that she's hopeless in the kitchen and a wreck of a 30-year-old woman. Overwhelmed, she blurts out a marriage proposal right there and then. The students freeze, wide-eyed, while her fellow teachers tease her mercilessly. Before Yuya can respond, she pulls him into a sudden hug. The men cheer, the women gasp, and poor Yuya stands paralyzed in embarrassment. Rin, half laughing, guides him away from the scene before it gets worse. Watching everybody enjoy his cooking, Yuya feels a quiet satisfaction. Even in this strange, noisy place, it feels good to bring people together. That night, he briefly teleports home to feed Night before returning in time for the evening trip to the hot springs. The students divide by gender, and the chatter quickly turns personal. On the men's side, Yuya's athletic build becomes the subject of admiration. He deflects their questions with awkward laughter, unwilling to admit that his physique comes from daily combat rather than gym workouts. On the women's side, talk centers around Miss Sawada's drunken behavior, and, inevitably, on comparisons of body types. Their laughter softens when the topic turns to Yuya himself. They list his talents, his looks, his cooking, his kindness, and wonder aloud what kind of girl could ever keep up with him. Their quiet gossip carries late into the night. The morning brings fresh air and new task. As Yuya and his group prepare to search for food again, the peace is shattered with a roar. A massive bear bursts from the trees, sending students scattering. In the panic, some of the girls joke at using Akira as bait. The teachers try to intervene, but none of them can figure out how to use the emergency shotgun. The bear barrels through the camp, straight towards Miss Sawada. For a moment, she freezes, eyes shut, bracing for impact, until Yuya moves. He intercepts the attack, stopping the bear in his tracks. A flicker of hesitation crosses his mind. He wonders how he'll explain such impossible strength, but hearing his classmate's screams, he acts on instinct and flips the bear clear over his shoulder. The ground trembles as the animal hits the dirt. For a heartbeat, nobody breathes. But then the camp erupts in cheers. Miss Sawada scolds him for risking his life, but her voice shakes with relief. Yuya, catching his breath, asks what will happen to the bear. Kaori steps in, saying it'll be trained to guard the camp. When he raises an eyebrow, she adds dryly that if the training fails, they'll simply cook it. The poor animal, now awake, whimpers like a frightened dog. Yuya kneels beside it and murmurs a quiet prayer, hoping it'll survive this strange new fate. Book 2 Epilogue. Deep within the Weld, an assassin known as the Headhunter waits for her next target, Princess Lexia. Beneath the mask and hardened reputation lies a familiar face, Luna. In her still moments between hunts, she finds herself remembering the time with Yuya. The memory feels like sunlight in a place that rarely sees it. He was strong and kind and so unshakably pure. She loved their training, the warmth of the baths, and the easy way he smiled without judgment. But purity like his, she thinks, doesn't belong beside someone like her. I've killed too many people, she tells herself quietly. And he's probably never killed anyone at all. For a moment, she lets the thought linger. If she had lived differently, if she had been someone better, maybe she could have stood beside him. Maybe his light could have reached her too. Then she exhales, pushing those feelings away, and pulls her mask back on. A job is a job, and the moment for softness has passed. Meanwhile, Yuya makes his way towards the edge of the Weld in order to meet Lexia and Owen. The forest feels different now, quieter, as though the monsters themselves are holding their breath. For a brief second, he wonders if his continued efforts have thinned them out. That hope vanishes almost immediately at the sound of heavy footsteps. An ogre lord appears, towering twice as high as the other ogres around it, the ground shaking with each stride. Too dangerous to let live, Yuya mutters under his breath. At his signal, Night darts forward, striking first. The smaller ogres fall quickly, but this time Yuya meets resistance. The ogre lord intercepts his spear mid-air and hurls it back, breaking the silence of the woods. Yuya's instincts sharpen. This creature can see through his stealth and adjust instantly, pulling from his inventory a massive wooden hammer, the World Smasher. He leaps high, bringing it down in a single devastating swing. The ogre lord tries to block, but the blow shatters his arms and crushes his skull. Knight's bark echoes nearby, signaling that his own fight is finished. As Yuya gathers the spoils, he finds something new among the drops. A helmet. The helm of the bloody ogre lord. It perfectly completes the set of armor he's wearing. He puts it on, though he admits to himself it makes him look more like a villain than a hero. After a few more battles, Yuya and Knight reach the edge of the forest. He waits in a clearing while Knight stays hidden, maintaining his camouflage. Soon a royal carriage approaches, its pace slowing at the sight of him. The knights close in carefully, their unease palpable. Owen calls out, demanding he identify himself. Realizing his mistake, Yuya removes his helmet, revealing his face. Relief sweeps across the group, and Lexia lights up with delight at seeing him, while Owen greets him with genuine respect. When they notice the helmet, they ask about it, and Yuya mentions casually that he just defeated a bloody ogre lord. A ripple of alarm passes through the knights, whispers spreading of how ogre lords don't just destroy cities, but entire kingdoms. Before Yuya can respond, Knight breaks cover and bounds forward, knocking Lexia to the ground. Yuya's heart stops for an instant. A flash of movement cuts through the air where the princess had just stood. Razor wire. The attack's origin is obvious. Yuya's eyes lock to the tree line. He reacts without hesitation, dashing towards the masked figure and striking once. The assassin slams against a tree, the mask cracking from the impact. When it falls away, Yuya's stomach twists. It's Luna. Knight whimpers, as though confirming what Yuya already suspected, that his friend's warmth had always hidden something darker. Yuya kneels beside her unconscious form, guilt heavy in his chest. Lexia emerges from the bushes, and her voice shaking but curious. "Do you know her?" she asks. Yuya nods. "We trained together," he says quietly. "I don't know why she would do this, but I need to find out." Lexia's tone softens, though she adds with an unexpected cheer, "Then I'd like to know why I was targeted too." Before Owen can protest, she calls out to him, announcing that she's going with Yuya. The knights' horrified cries echo through the clearing as Yuya opens a teleportation gate. The three of them appear in his cabin. Lexia stands speechless, realizing what just happened. "Was that teleportation magic?" she asks in disbelief. "How do you even know this girl?" Yuya explains everything. Their meeting, their week of training, their friendship. Lexia listens, pouting slightly when she realizes somebody else has spent so much time with the man she admires. Then her expression hardens. "Never show that magic to anyone," she warns. "Teleportation spells only exist in legend. People would start wars over something like that." Yuya bows his head apologetically. "I'll be careful," he promises. "But I can't go to the king right now. I need to take care of her." Lexia smiles mischievously, her eerie worry replaced by playful resolve. "Then I'll stay too," she says. "We'll look after her together. It'll be like playing house." Her teasing grin leaves Yuya at a loss for words. Back in the modern world, the story closes on a quiet but ominous note. The president of the fashion magazine, still obsessed with finding Yuya, continues her investigation. After spotting recent social media photos of him walking Knight, she leans back in her chair with a sly smile. "You won't get away from me, Yuya Tenjo," she mutters. All right, that's book 2. If book 1 was about Yuya discovering his new life, then book 2 is more about him discovering he can't live it quietly. Oh man, the gap between the worlds is kind of shrinking a little bit, and for someone who believes for so long that he's worthless, every new connection he gets Every new hand reaching towards him feels like a gift and a weight he's still learning to carry. So I look forward to book 3. There's 2 segments that stick out to me upon rereading book 2, and when they're over there in the hot springs at the girls' bath, one of them looks down at her chest, and she goes, "Maybe straight A's isn't always a good thing." the, the the other one that sticks out is Miss Sawada, upon trying Yuya's food, she pulls Yuya in for a hug, and then Rin pulls him out of it. And as they're both walking away, Yuya turns around, enjoying the fact that everybody's enjoying his food. But I believe the text read something along the lines of Yuya turns around and locks eyes with Miss Sawada, and Miss Sawada is watching his every step with hunger in her eyes. That's just too wild for me.